My mother was the ultimate manager, or that's what we called her. She did it behind the scenes, but she was very effective. For instance, when she married Saul Rosenbaum, my father, he said, "No children, I have bad genes." Guess what? I'm here. She managed that. Now we're going to go to the end of her life. She was 94 years old. And she she looked at me and she said, "I'm tired. I've had a very rich, long life. I'm ready to leave." That was her euphemism for it. And indeed, her life had shrunk. I mean, there were no more card shark bridge games, and she wasn't able to knit and read mysteries and watch television simultaneously. And she had spinal stenosis, so she couldn't move around very well, and a stroke had taken out one eye. Enough was enough, she said. And I said, "Well, that's really interesting. What?" She said, "I've read about it. I'm just going to stop eating and drinking." Now, my sister and I, we were okay behind this. It's her life. My daughter and the grandchildren, we've been visiting every Friday for a good 12 years. They didn't. You mean you're tired and you're just going to check out? But what could they do? Now, her doctor, a brilliant gerontologist, first he did a whole bunch of tests to see if there was anything to fix, but there wasn't. She was unfixable. And by then she had stopped eating. And he said, "I'm going to have to, have a mental acuity test to make sure she's in her right mind." I said, "Mom, you better start eating so you can pass this test, so you can do what you want." And sure enough, she aced that test. But she said, the testers, "What a stupid, stupid woman. What a stupid test, multiple choice." Now, when she embarked on this journey, I had no idea how long it would take. She was a tough old bird. But I took a leave from work and I was just going to sit vigil and see what it was like. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, I saw her converse with something between where the wall and the ceiling met. And sometimes it was very lively and sometimes it was kind of scary. And she'd look up at me after one of these episodes out of those very bright green eyes with the bags under them. She had bags when she was a baby. I have the picture to show it. But she said, what just happened there? And I said, "Well, Mom, what I've heard is that at times like this, the veil between this life and that thins, and maybe they're ready to welcome you." And she'd say, "Oh." And then she'd go back to wherever she was in this process. And by then, this whole thing took 14 days and we were well into it. And it was time for us to go to Memorial Day camping. We did it every year. And I said, "Mom, should I go?" And she said, "Go." And just before we left, the phone rang and it was the hospice chaplain. She was not particularly fond of him. I forgot to tell you, the most important thing about this story is Dr. Dong brought hospice in, and boy, do they know what they're doing. And boy, did this make a kind of an amazing journey out of it. But he said, "Your mother has started eating again." She said, "It's too boring just lying there." And my heart rose up. Maybe she'd stick around a little longer. But when we got back, that fasting had done its work on that old body, and she was about to die a natural death, which went down a lot better with the daughter and the grandchildren. And sure enough, it was July 4th. And the same hospice worker who had taken her in was there to check on her. Everybody else was on vacation. And she had her hands on my mother's feet, which were very high arched with hammer toes because she wore very too small shoes when she was growing up. And the feet were cold and blue. And she said, "Anne, this could be your Independence Day." And sure enough, at shift change, when the nurse came with the morphine, my mother took one breath, and that was it. No more breaths. And there she was. She had accomplished what she had set out to manage. I called my daughter. We sat on either side of the husk of my mother until Neptune Society, which had been ordered way in advance, wrapped her tenderly up in velour and wheeled her out. And then we went into the bathroom where what was left of her worldly possessions was all boxed up because she said, I don't want to spend another day's rent at this place. And in the van with her possessions, we went up to Table Rock in Berkeley and we lay on our backs and we watched the fireworks go off. Leave it to the manager